Okay, buenos dias. Good morning, I think. Um, Coming at you a little early, a couple of minutes. Just check to see this if I'm actually on live because my continue with coverage up over streaming stopped. Wow. Continue without Rumble. Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna go with what we can get. The streaming is so low here right now. Something happened with our internet that I'm only streaming speed to what I need. Something's up with our internet provider. I apologize for that. So, if you're talking with anybody that normally is on, say, my Facebook, Facebook Bill Mark, turning off the internet, turn it back on, reset everything. I reloaded the computer twice, turned it off, but nope. So we will just go with what we have, and I believe what we have is Facebook, Calvary Chapel, Puerto Vallarta, and probably YouTube, Puerto Vallarta, I think. And those are the only two I think we're streaming on. Plus, well, if we're on Twitch, then actually you'll be able to see it if you go onto the CalvaryPV.com and watch it there, because that goes through Twitch. Anyway, sorry about that. Don't know what's going on there, but we will continue to move forward. And I guess, Renee, you might send out a little text to everybody and tell them where we're on, wherever you can find me. Anyway, let's look at this day in trivia. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, internet speed. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, serenity prayer that was written by Reynold Niebuhr. And did you know that ducks might make the only audible noise that does not echo? Does a duck's quack echo? Well, it says yes, like audible noises, it does, yet for some reason many trivia sources claim it doesn't. Nobody knows why. So I guess it's still up for debate. Let's see here. The Mr. Wizard Show, a long-running children's science show, debuts on this day in 1951 and ran until next 1965. So it had a long run, over a 10-year run on a science show. That's pretty cool. And the Star-Spangled Banner. Interesting that the Ripley's Believe It or Not in 1929 pointed out that the United States was like the only country that didn't have a national anthem. So they quickly realized, the Congress realized, hey, we got to do something. So they took the song from 1814 by Francis Scott Key's song, The Star-Spangled Banner, adopted that as the national anthem. U.S. declares war on Algeria in 1815 on March 3rd. I bet you didn't know that. Okay, continue without Calvary PV. Sure, why not? Let's just continue without them and see what we come down to. We're going to come to our side, it looks like. I really don't know what is going on with this. So, Renee, I guess you might have to tell me. She's saying nothing is working. Nothing is on. Try going to CalvaryPV.com and hit watch live, because that's Twitch, and you've never been on Twitch. We might be on there. But the radio's working, I assume. I assume it's working anyway. Good morning. Trouble with buffering. Yes, trouble with everything. Trouble with everything. Good morning. Trouble with buffering. Yes, big time. We are trying to fix, but it's the internet service provider. So I am on YouTube, apparently. Yay. Okay. So that would be under Calvary Chapel, Puerto Vallarta, I believe, on YouTube. And maybe on CalvaryPV.com on Watch Live. That would be on Twitch, which is also Calvary Chapel, Puerto Vallarta, I believe. So we're narrowing it down. I at least have a program here that runs the whole podcast thing and the whole live feed that is smart enough that it tells me I have to drop destinations to keep going live. So it tries to keep a live feed going at least on one platform for me rather than canceling everything out. There we go. Renee put up a link on Manna for Breakfast on everybody that has that is on with us on Messenger. So back to this day in trivia. The war in Algiers in 1815 had begun plundering U.S. Algiers had begun plundering U.S. ships. The U.S. squadron commanded by somebody. It began the war to end piracy on the Barbary Coast. So it's pretty kind of cool. They should make a movie of that. And first use of wireless telegraphy to save the lives at sea on March 3rd, 1899. Rescuers are called after a British lightship is struck by a streamer using a telegraph, which really speeded things up. Also, Helen Keller is on this day. Anne Sullivan begins teaching 6-year-old Helen Keller. She would eventually learn the manual alphabet, Braille, and earn a BA degree in 1914. Phenomenal. I think the Comstead Act was initiated on this day. That's a good thing. In 1873, U.S. federal law making it illegal to possess or distribute obscene material. There you go. And this one's kind of interesting because it almost applies to what's going on today. The serfdom abolished by the Tsar Alexander II of Russia on March 3rd, 1861. Peasant farmers became tenant farmers, which I interpret to mean you'll own nothing and be happy. You're too poor to take care of yourself, therefore we're going to take care of you. We'll give you land to farm, but it won't be yours. That kind of a thing. All right, that should do it there. Oh, Florida becomes the 27th state on this day in 1845. Happy birthday, Florida. Let's see if we're into the end of the dad jokes here. And see, even opening up web pages right now. I don't even know if it's going to open. It's so slow. It's trying. We'll forgo that. We will forgo that. It's just going too slow. We will go ahead and just go right into the reading this morning. So let's pray. Father, thank you for giving us this time together. Even if we're only on one platform, just thank you that we can come together. My motorcycle guy even passed before we started the reading. That's pretty cool. That way it's not on the recording. All right. Leviticus chapter 15. The Lord also spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when any discharge is unclean, this moreover shall be his uncleanness in his discharge. It is unclean whether his body allows its discharge to flow or whether a man obstructs its discharge. Even every bed on which the person has a discharge lies becomes unclean, and everything on which he sits becomes unclean. Anyone who touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And whoever sits on a thing on which a man with the discharge has been sitting shall wash his clothes and bathe in the water and be unclean until evening. Also, whoever touches the person with the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Or if the man with the discharge spits on one who is clean, he too shall wash. The person on which the discharge rides becomes unclean. Whoever touches anything Any of the things which is under him shall be unclean until evening. He who carries them shall wash his clothes and bathe in the water and be unclean until evening. Likewise, whomever the one with the discharge touches without having rinsed his hands in water shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. However, an earthenware vessel which the person with the discharge touches shall be broken, and every wooden vessel shall be rinsed with water. Now, when the man with the discharge becomes cleansed from his discharge, then he shall count off his body, and running water will become clean. Then on the 8th day he shall take for himself 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord at the doorway of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for sin offering, one for a burnt offering, or the other for a burnt offering. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf before the Lord because of his discharge. Now, if a man has a seminal emission, he shall bathe all his body with water and be unclean until evening. As for any garment or any leather on which there is seminal emission, he shall be washed. It shall be washed with water and be unclean until evening. If a man lies with a woman so that there's a seminal emission, they shall both bathe in water and be unclean until evening. When a woman has a discharge, if her discharge in her body is blood, she shall but continue in her menstrual impurity for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. Everything also on which she lies during her menstrual impurity shall be unclean, and everything on which she sits shall be unclean. Anyone who touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. Whether it be on a bed or anything on which she is sitting, if she touches it, she'll be unclean until evening. If a man actually lies with her so as that her menstrual impurity is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed in which she lies shall be unclean. Now, if a woman has a discharge in her body many days, not that the period of her menstrual impurity, or if she has a discharge beyond that period, all the days of which her impure discharge shall continue, as through her menstrual impurity she is unclean. Any bed in which she lies, all the days of her discharge shall be to her like a bed at menstruation, and everything in which she sits shall be unclean, like her uncleanness at that time. Likewise, whoever touches them shall be unclean